name is Andreas Diaz. This is my co-host.
Oh, hello. My
Jan.
name's Jaden.
Hello, hello, Jan. Sorry to interrupt. So, and today is the first episode of Andreas the Pop Culture Talk podcast. Today we're going to talk about Batman Forever, the 1995 Joel Schumacher film, directed by Joel Schumacher, produced by Tim Burton. This is the third installment of the initial Batman film series during the 90s. So, and this year it has its 20th anniversary. It happened last, what was it? Man, it's June 16th. So, last Tuesday, June 16th, 2020 was its 25th anniversary. So, Jan, overall, what's your opinion of the movie?
I mean, it's fun. You know, it's definitely an enjoyable, very 90s kind of movie. It's a lot sillier than some of the other ones, but, you know, it's fun. It's not, I don't think it's supposed to be anything serious or something, you know, that would last for a long time. It's just something you go see in the theaters and you like it.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, comparing this to, Returns, I mean, this was a better fun movie overall. So, I mean, as I get older as a Batman fan, I think this movie is the best overall in the Tim Burton, Joel Schumacher saga film series. It has a focus that Returns didn't have. Returns is just all over the place. It's very mean spirited kind of film, and of course, I just feel like it didn't have the energy, or like Returns didn't have the energy or the passion that the first Batman movie, 1989 film had. I feel like Batman Forever had, like Joel Schumacher was a Batman fan. He loved Batman, and I think you can see that in the film. Like there's very cool stuff. I mean, Jayan, it's crazy. Like I didn't realize until like you get into like especially me as a movie guy, like I never pick up that this movie is the first in the Batman series to include Arkham Asylum. It was never in the Tim Burton films, which is crazy. I think that could fit with him, but no, it was actually Joel Schumacher and his.
Yeah, it's the first one.
Yeah, it's crazy, and obviously this movie introduced Robin, of course, played by Chris O'Donnell. It feels more like a Batman movie, and where the other two just feel like villain-centric films, and it just didn't feel like a Batman movie. So.
Yeah, I think it's also like the time in which it was made and the audience who it was made for as well. The 80s Batmans were kind of a reflection of that kind of Cold War time too. And I think this one's more of the kind of the 90s American economic boom, just feeling good. Everything's kind of great. It kind of reflects that. And I think it's also kind of a turn towards a younger audience as well. You know, just having more family-friendly, children-friendly kind of entertainment that Tim Burton didn't really put into his, and he wouldn't really kind of figure out how to balance that until some of his later movies.
Yeah, that's true.
So why did you decide to start with this one, other than the 25th anniversary? Because I know it is the third one in the series.
Well, I mean, this year is also there's a couple anniversaries. I totally forgot this year. Batman Begins has its anniversary, 15th anniversary. It was on actually Monday, the 15th, which is crazy. But I
congratulations to Batman Begins, by the way.
Yep. 15 years it came out. It was crazy. But I mean, I feel like, I feel like everyone don't remember this movie. Obviously, there's good reasons, but then also some people unbash this movie too much because it's because Batman and Robin came right after quickly. It came in 1997, and so people think it's the same thing as Batman and Robin. It's not really. The movie, Batman Forever is more of a movie where Batman and Robin is a toy commercial. I mean, as many of the cast members talk about in the behind scenes and the documentaries you see in YouTube or in the film series box set. So and there's a couple of interesting things about Batman Forever that I think is interesting. And there's things about it that you like it's interesting to see how this movie like recast a main actor after just 2 movies. Like
Yeah.
that's like literally like a Bond thing. Like like Dalton is a good example. Like Tim Dalton was the latest actor from the 80s. He was in 87 and then 89, but then there was a legal battle with the producers and the studio that we're working with, and that like had this long hiatus, and Dalton stepped down in 1994, I think, and then Pierce Brosnan became the new James Bond, and of course in GoldenEye in 1995, the same year as Batman Forever.
Yeah.
And this movie sets up a couple of things that is like Batman Begins. It feels like a reboot, not really. It does carry some stuff from the Tim Burton films. Obviously,
Right.
Alfred and Commissioner Gordon, played by Michael Goff and Pat Hingle. So, and then like the suit of Batman, of course, Val Kilmer's suit is similar to Keaton, but it's a little more like I don't know, like a little more muscle sculpture like the first film, but like a little more organic, and then the colors are more muted. Like the bat symbol in his chest is much more muted than the Keaton one. So
Mm.
it's interesting how it's half a reboot, but it's also somewhat a continuation from Batman Returns, which is sometimes lip service, but so it's a very interesting movie, and eh, and in a way, like it's if like you hear about the Batmania, like '89 was
Yeah.
such huge with the marketing. This had that, I mean, especially with Jim Carrey, being involved, during his rise as a comedic actor. I mean, this like is crazy. Like this movie was right after his big, uh, like splash debut in 1994 with Dumb and Dumber and The Mask, and I can't believe it that three his most iconic films came in 1 year. Ace Ventura and The Mask and Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And this movie, like getting this and his sequel, Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, is in the same year, 1995. Like that's crazy. Um, yeah. So it's very interesting. So I want to discuss what you think is the best aspects of the film. What's the best thing about this film you like
The
about
best thing about the film? I think the performances are pretty good, especially from the villains. It's kind of funny to see Tommy Lee Jones in like a pure comedy role, which he doesn't do, especially in his later career.
it? Right.
Um, I think it's interesting to see him going up against Jim Carrey. They're both kind of vying for that big villain role in it. And they play off each other pretty well, actually. So I'd say the villains are a pretty good part of it. I wonder with the bat suit too, if the reason they kind of toned it down a bit for this one is because the villains were kind of bringing all the color to it. So Batman's kind of dark, muted colors, and they're really wacky, vibrant '90s kind of day globe colors.
Wow. Now that's an interesting idea. I never thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, like particularly it showed like the personality of each character, right? How
Yeah.
they are in their moods, and that's a good interesting idea. I actually like that. That's actually pretty good. Um, anything else in best parts about the film, or that's really it?
I'd say that's what I pretty much mainly liked about it. I think it's it's not something you come into for like the deep themes or the incredible story. It's just fun, and that's all it really needs to be. And I would say even Batman and Robin, even if it is a toy commercial, it's probably an entertaining toy commercial for children. I think especially with movies like that where it's more just supposed to be fun for children than anything else.
Right.
Really, the audience you have to ask if it's good or not is people who were children in 1997. um, so I think especially it's kind of like there's like a weird tonal difference where you have these and then you have the Nolan Batman movies, and they're much more serious. So it kind of creates a weird dissonance where you have different movies within the same franchise being discussed very differently, and it's kind of hard to go from one to the other. Like you can't really talk about Batman Forever or Batman and Robin like it's a Christopher Nolan movie, because it's not. and it didn't really want to be anyways.
No, I agree. I mean, like it's just it gets really bad with the Batman fans and the comic book community because of how like initially it just like it hurt the comic book movie Sandro, right? And the funny thing is, 1998 Blade came out, and then 2000 X-Men came out, and then 2002 Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire film came out. Like it's instant they
Yeah.
think like because these films were so like like studio um community kind of films, but like I mean these films were successful. I mean I like you mentioned Batman Robin. Like I don't want to talk too much about Batman Robin. One of these days we'll discuss the anniversary and go in deep. I don't hate Batman Robin as much as many people. I don't think it's the worst superhero movie. It's not number one for me. It's something else. But I think these films feel like Batman films. It has the things that I want to see in a Batman film with the villains. Um, they have very unique styles from Joel Schumacher. He's a very good director. He's very diverse in his style. The action is very good compared to the Tim Burton ones. And then like the projection are very high. They're not lazy like some of the more modern films we've seen. Like Fantastic looks cheap and ugly.
Yeah.
Where these films, these two particularly, look like grammarless. They look gorgeous to look at. Like they have this pop that I can at least enjoy. And Batman Robin's main problem is its tone. It's just all over the place. It's trying to be too goofy, but then they're trying to be too serious with the Affleck stuff. Like its tone, their tone is very inconsistent with that. And they were rushed also, and like they were rushed into production right away after Forever was successful. I feel like the story of these films, like particularly this movie did you like know about the Red Book storyline? Like you see the scene of Bruce getting this Red Book of Bruce father's diary, that.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about there.
Yeah, like so if anyone doesn't know, so there was a cut, like this movie is also starts the trend of film versions we never got to see, and this film has this complete in space. Like the opening of Forever was completely different. This opening was supposed to be a much darker one, and I will say I think if I can find the notes here, basically the opening was towards the end you meet this doctor at Arkham Asylum called Dr. Burton, and obviously that's a reference to Tim Burton, which is cool.
Yeah.
Also, that actor passed away. He's a very famous actor in Star Trek. I forgot his name, but I think if you can see it, here. You can say that word, Jan.
Sorry. I can't really see your. Rene Marat. Auberjonois. He was Odo. Oh.
Yeah. So unfortunately, he passed away. Rest in peace. So it was. You have one interesting fact about this movie. He's in this movie as Dr. Burton. So that's very cool. He's the head doctor of Arkham Asylum. So the original opening was he heard I think a scream or something from Two-Face cell, and the guard opened it, and you see this one guard being hand up in the air, and his blood got cut, and then Two-Face say a word in the wall called "the bats will die." So that was supposed to be the original ending, the original opening of Batman Forever. But of course, the studio wanted to be light, more friendly. So they had to change it, and what we got was the opening was a more action-packed and goofy kind of romp. And then another thing they cut out of this movie was called the Red Diary storyline. So this whole movie, like out of all the Batman films, this was the one that focused most of Bruce Wayne and Batman. Pretty much, Val Kilmer's version of Batman is questioning, uh, the like, does he want to continue as Batman? Does he want a noble life? And the
Yeah.
storyline, he's having this, you know, he's having PST or something. Like he's flashing back of the night of his parents' murder, and the most recurring thing in the flashback is this red book. Obviously, the more we get into those flashbacks, we discover the red book is from Bruce's father. That's Bruce's diary. That's Bruce Wayne's father, Thomas Wayne's diary, and he talks about how he didn't want to go out that night of they're gonna get killed, and he said that Bruce wanted to go to the movie, and and that plays up how Bruce blames himself of the death of his parents. Obviously, and then obviously there's the famous big bat. If you've seen the deleted scenes or like the promo pictures, he goes underneath the cave, the spot where he dropped down during this rainy night, and then he sees this big bat coming at him. He sees it again when he's older, and that's like completing his whole arc in the film. Those stuff gets cut as well because Warner Brothers doesn't want this to be dark or serious like the Tim Burton film, so they cut that out. And so what we got here is somewhat a forgettable film that doesn't have like resonance or like a meaningful message that you can relate to. It's just like a popcorn like fest with no substance really. So yeah.
Yeah, I suppose so. Though, I think if you're just watching a movie for the popcorn, that's totally fine. I think that those storylines kind of make sense in it. Like I could imagine, especially since one of the big kind of device in it is the mind reading one, where uh,
Yes.
where Riddler and Two Face are trying to get read people's minds to figure out who Batman is. So there's definitely a way they could throw that stuff in there. But I think tonally it would be kind of really jarring to have on one hand this movie about like PTSD and trauma, and on the other hand, kind of this really goofy, wacky movie. I think the Burton movies kind of tried to balance that, where even though they were both fairly dark movies that did have real danger in them. People actually died. They also had in some kind of children-friendly elements as well. The Joker is still pretty silly, but at the same time, he is basically just a crazy mob boss with a gun. So it's interesting how Batman Forever kind of streamlined that a bit and took out the darker elements to it. And I think overall that probably worked better for them. I mean, I can't imagine that the audience is going to see it mainly wanted to watch something darker with more substance in it. They were probably looking for just kind of summer fun there. But yeah, I suppose in terms of its kind of longevity, that might have cut it a bit short. One thing I'm thinking about too is just that kind of like 20 or 30-year cycle where older things come back into fashion, like in the 80s, the 50s were really popular again, and now the 80s are really popular. The next decade up for that will be the 90s, and the 2020s should have us kind of flashing back to 90s nostalgia, and all of our entertainment might take cues from it. So you think we'll get a Batman Forever boom, or you think it'll come back into style?
Well, I mean, it's. I mean, yes or no, because hopefully people can separate the Batman Robin stink of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just say, well, this movie is more of a movie where Batman
Yeah.
was a toy commercial. It's really tough, I think, because these like I think that's one of the big problems with the Joel Schumacher films. They have potential, but they don't reach, I think, the things that they have that are very interesting. And Jaden, you have a good point about the tone being kind of like inconsistent with these more like psychological stuff that Joel was trying to do in Batman Forever. But like those are the stuff that are very interesting, and like you can pull off a very uneven tone and be successful. I mean, I just think it just makes this movie a lot forgettable and just has no meat in it for people to just get into. But also like, I mean, I think Batman Forever is part of everyone's childhood memories. I mean, this was like the level of '89, but not as big as '89. So
Yeah.
I think it will still remember fondly, you know, and it's part of that zeitgeist, I will say. But you know, it's going to be interesting when we get to that point of the '90s nostalgia. And
Yeah.
speaking of the unconsistent tones, I want to get into the worst aspects of the film. What do you think is the worst aspects of the film? Like the worst thing about this film?
Um, I'd say that, well, one of the things looking back on it now would probably be that it wasn't built to last. You know, they intentionally made it very much a product of its time. This is a kind of movie that takes a lot of cues from what's popular at the point when it's made. So that's why it's very 90s, very of a particular era. So looking back, it did date very quickly. And a lot of things like that will date quickly, and that's okay. But
Hmm.
so I think for retrospective purposes, um, we haven't tapped into that same pool of references in modern Batman movies. So it does seem out of step with the path that we've taken. So
Yeah,
it's hard to put in line or kind of set up in relationship to the other Batman movies that have come out since then. Thinking of the Nolan ones and the more recent ones, which are much more dark. They're meant to include a lot of those themes, and it seems like that's what the modern audience is kind of trying to pull towards the modern comic book audiences. Movies with darker themes that pull more from comics, especially comics from like the '80s. I know is inspiration.
yeah, um, yeah. I can understand that. I somewhat disagree. These Batman films feel timeless. It I think I think I think the worst aspect is some of the characterization of
Mhm.
characters. That's my main problem with this film. You mentioned Two Face. He's the worst aspect of the duo. Like in my opinion,
Mhm.
I respect your opinion, Jay, and I like how you play it. It's true. He. Have you seen Under Siege?
Uh,
The, uh, the Steven Seagal film. That's the like Die Hard on and Navy ships.
no, I haven't seen that one.
Okay, that's another Tommy Lee Jones performance you should check out. That's where he's also over the top and like having fun. Like he's actually good in that. I mean, I feel like his performance here is really bad. Tommy Lee Jones as Two Face. They missed the mark on who Two Face is. As a Batman fan, I just feel like they never got him right, and like they portray his like rule of flipping a coin. Like when he flips one the side of the coin, that's it. But in the scene when Riddler and Two Face invade Wayne Manor, he constantly flips his coin to get to the scar half so that he can hurt Bruce Wayne or shoot him. And like that's so out of character. And so right away, that's just not being true to the character. Um, and besides Two Face being the worst, Dr. Chase Mourinho, played by Nicole Kidman, the psych woman that falls in love with Bruce Wayne, or well, falls in love with Batman. She's okay, but she's a very interesting potential character that just doesn't get explored enough, and she's just there as an eye candy, and like she has this, and part of my friends have a boner on Batman. It's like, what? I mean, look, she is beautiful in this movie. I mean, not get me wrong, but it's just so like wasted opportunity as a character, and I feel like she's the worst aspect of this film. What do you think?
I think the '90s, late '80s, early '90s Batman movies kind of have a problem with Batman too, which is kind of the
Yeah,
reverse problem that a lot of the modern Marvel movies have, where the main characters are the ones who are very compelling, but the villains are forgettable. I think it's kind of the reverse here, where
right.
the villains get a lot of attention and are very attention grabbing as well, but Batman is understated. He's not really a presence there. He's just someone who does the right thing and keeps doing that. So he's not very compelling. So I'd say a lot of the interest comes from the villains in these movies. So I think, we could have seen some more out of Batman as well.
Right. I agree. I think this movie does it better, giving more meat to Batman as a character. I think Val Kilmer is a great actor, and I think
Oh yeah.
his portrayal of Bruce Wayne is the best in this series of the Tim Burton and Batman, the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher films. I don't think his Batman portrayal is not really good. I just he doesn't make it unique or separate from his Bruce Wayne persona like Keaton did in the Tim Burton films. Um, uh, I like your point. I guess the one character we haven't talked about. I mean, the other big thing about Batman Forever was Robin. Robin finally got into this film. I want to ask you what do you think of Chris O'Donnell's portrayal of Robin? Did you were you happy to see Robin finally in these films after just being not really bring into the Tim Burton films? What do you think?
I think he shows up at the right point. He wouldn't have really made sense in the earlier Batman movies. I
Right.
think that having Robin there kind of harkens back to like that 60s era Batman, which is really like wacky and out there, and no one takes himself too seriously. So
Right.
him showing up now kind of gives Batman, takes away some of the drama of Batman's whole arc,
Uh,
because part of it is how he is the loner, how he has no one. But admittedly, after a while, it's hard to pay attention to a character who doesn't really interact with other people. So it's good that after a while, after you've kind of grounded Batman, set up who he is, you can bring in other people for him to interact with and kind of have him develop and expand as well. So I think they brought him in at the right time. And I think at the same time, Robin, as kind of the younger, cooler character, also would was a marketing decision. Bring in a younger audience as well, bring in people who are going to be kind of wowed and impressed by this cool young guy Robin, as opposed to Batman. So it brings in a different generational aspect to it too.
that's true. Yeah, especially with the 60 fans, you bring now the Batman 1966 fans that remember Batman, Robin. That's how you can bring them into these movies finally. And yeah, I think it's good. So let's get into. Do you want? Uh, what are we gonna do? What do you think? I'm jumping around with my notes.
Sure.
What do you think? What it did for Batman? What do you think? What it did for Batman as a character and as a franchise? What do you think this really did?
As a character, I think it kind of let him stay in place and move the world around him. So Batman, for a lot of intents and purposes, is the same Batman, even though it's a different actor. I think he's very much the same kind of Batman that we saw in the earlier movies. I think for the Batman franchise, though, they kind of pivoted, did a whole 180 with it. Tim Burton's directing style has always been very dark and probably always will be. Very interested in like kind of gothic styling. And I think they were trying to get away from that and try something that would be more approachable, more entertaining. I think they were making a conscious move away from the darker Batman style.
Right, that's true. Yeah. I think it couldn't if we hit the right direction with Batman and Robin. I think it'd be kind of cool to see a lighter Batman film and
Mm-hmm.
how successful it can be because Returns. I mean, I want to say right now, Returns is not a bad film. It's just a weak movie with a weak story plot, and and it just is very mean spirited. So I just feel like it basically alienated so many people, and especially Trulin, because of the parents just felt like it was just not right for the kids, which is right.
Yeah,
I
my mom didn't let me watch Batman Returns when I was a kid.
yeah, I wasn't in that situation. I mean, because it was weird. My mom let me watch that over the '89 film, which is weird.
Yeah,
So
the '89 film's definitely dark too. I just remember looking at that kind of spooky cover art and thinking that I didn't want to watch it. It looked too scary when I was little.
oh yeah, like I mean, I will say the posters of these four Batman films are pretty cool, and especially the Tim Burton ones. I love the Returns posters. They're very like just like cool. I love the black
Yeah.
background with the characters of Penguin and Catwoman, but it just shows how dark it was. Um, okay, let's see. Okay, we're almost into that end time. Let's talk about the big old question: is it your favorite Batman film?
No, I wouldn't say it's my favorite Batman film or even up there, but that's okay. And I think part of the difficulty with doing a Batman movie is
Mm,
that it's hard to nail down Batman. I think it's hard to say exactly what his personality is because
right.
I think every different director and writer takes a different stab at what he's like. Is he just totally depressed and miserable and angry? Is he kind of a just figure in an unjust world? Is he, more sardonic and sarcastic and kind of funny in a dark way? Or is he just outright wacky and silly and kind of addressing a bunch of even more ridiculous villains? So I think everyone takes a different look at Batman. I don't think the Schumacher Batman movies are the direction that we've kind of collectively decided is what Batman is like,
No,
but it's definitely a fun kind of side turn off area, a different path that we could have gone down and ended up not going down. So it's they're kind of like more cultural artifacts than great movies or anything like that. But I think that's totally fine. And for the time period too, I'm sure plenty of children growing up in the '90s enjoyed them. I know when I was growing up, there were plenty of movies now that if I watched them, they'd probably be terrible. But I liked them when I was 6, so I'm
yeah,
sure there are a lot of people who, 6 and 8 years old, loved Batman Forever and still have fond memories of it. So I'm glad it happened, and I'm glad we can kind of look back on it too.
fondly, not
Yeah.
not as bad as Batman and Robin. For those who don't like Batman. Okay. I guess this is a tough question. Like, if you think of out of your head, Jan, how you rank this film in the Batman film series? Excluding the animation stuff, we're just ranking the live action ones. Like, how you place this in those?
Uh, if I had to give an answer, I'd say it's near the bottom. But I
Okay.
don't know if it's fair to rank it against some of the other ones too, because
Mm,
it's almost in a totally different genre. It's definitely. I don't think it has a lot in common with Batman v Superman.
no, no, it's
No,
not.
it's
It's way better than Batman v Superman, in my opinion. I will.
yeah. This movie's supposed to be funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be fun for the kids, and then that I will agree with those terms with the film.
Yeah,
And it has cool moments. It feels like a Batman film, and I like the gadgets. I like how Batman fights, and I love the design of Gotham City. This is most like great designs of Gotham City ever look. You know.
yeah. I think a lot of credit is due to the kind of costume designers and set designers as well for what they did with it.
Yeah,
It seems like they had a good amount of opportunity to have some fun with everything there.
yeah, I agree. Okay. I think I think we can. That's probably it. Thank you, Jan, for joining me on
Yeah,
this
thanks
special
for
podcast.
having me.
Um, I have a question. Have you seen RoboCop 2? It
uh,
like
I have not.
okay. If you're interested on talking about that film, by any chance, because that has a big anniversary. RoboCop 2. It has its 30th anniversary. This week actually. Tomorrow. So
I don't know if I'll get to that in time, but
yeah, but later on, if when you're free, maybe we should do that as the next episode. What do you think, buddy?
um, yeah, maybe. I don't know when I'll have time to kind of sit down and get through RoboCop. So, if I know you've mentioned you've got other people who are looking to join in too. So if any of them have already seen it, um,
Oh, Yeah, let's see. I don't want to mention that. Everybody who's listening to this podcast, trying to get.
I mean, we can cut the recording off, you know.
Yeah. But I want to say. So let's. Anything else? Last thing you want to say, Jane?
Um, I think I'm all good. Anything else you want to add?
Yes.
Any thoughts on Batman Forever?
Well, I'll just quickly say, I think Batman Forever is a okay film. It's very adorable. It's better over Batman Returns as a film. It's more cohesive. You can understand the plot. There is good performances, and there's bad performances as well. But overall, it's a more enjoyable piece than Batman Returns. Now, as a Batman film, you know it does a better job handling Batman as a character and being a Batman film overall than really the Tim Burton films, and I think I will appreciate that. I will like consciously say that I think it is number 10 in my ranking of the Batman live action films. I will never put either the two Batman films or Batman Robin in my list. I think Forever deserves that because at least focus on Bruce Wayne more, and I appreciate that as a film. And
Yeah.
and they handled the five characters well enough in the film that I appreciate that. And it has great action, better action over Forever. The soundtrack. Of course, everyone talks about the soundtrack in this film. A couple of the stuff in Batman and Batman Returns and whatever. This has a good soundtrack. Kiss from a Rose is famous. It's one of the best songs ever you listen to. U2 song, Hold Me, Kiss Me, Thrill Me, and whatever it is, that long.
Yeah.
It's very good too. It's a good soundtrack. I think it's better than the '89 soundtrack with Prince. You mentioned how outdated it is. At least the soundtrack for Batman Forever fits into the decade where '89 feels outdated when you hear Prince, and it just you kind of know it's from the '80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, just in my opinion, I'm not saying
Mm.
that that's everyone's agreement. I'm just saying that, like I feel like that makes the film outdated, in my point of view, and in my opinion, just really is.
Yeah.
So, thank you, everyone, in the YouTube or whatever, from the internet space. Thank you for listening to the Andreas Pop Culture Talk podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed this Batman Forever 25th anniversary talk. We had me and Jayan today. I'm very happy that I finally got this off the ground. This has been a long due thing, and as I mentioned in this recording, that I am planning to have more podcasts in this channel. And obviously, I mentioned RoboCop 2, but that's not really definitely because I need to find co-hosts. And Jayan, as mentioned before, he cannot able to do that. He has, point prior projects and stuff in his life he has to tend to, and that's very important. So just bear with us. Bear with my channel's new content that I'm doing podcasting for the first time in my channel. I want to say thank you so much, everyone, to listening to this podcast. Subscribe and like my channel, Andreas, the Pop Culture channel. Andreas, sorry. Yeah, I'm losing my voice. Twist tongue. Andreas, the Pop Culture Guy, channel presents. Subscribe, like, and plus my videos. Subscribe and like my videos, and that's it. So thank you, Jane, for coming today's video.
Yeah, of course. And I hope you have a great day.
Thanks. Okay, now let me stop the recording. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Andreas Diaz, or my YouTube channel, Andreas the Pop Culture Guy channel presents. This is the third podcast of Andreas the Pop Culture Talk. This is the TV podcast. So today I have my co-host Becca.
Hello.
So today we're gonna discuss the OA, the TV show created by, you know their names? I cannot say them.
Zal, Bat Manglage, and Britt Marling.
Yes, that's they are. Okay. So the show ran from 2016 to 2019. This is a science fiction slash supernatural fantasy elements kind of show. And yeah, you, Becca, you're the one that got me into the show. So jumping into overall, why you like the show? What's the like, or what do you think about the show in general?
I mean, I love it. I loved it from the first episode. Um, I think just the atmosphere that they create is really beautiful. The characters are all fantastic. You kind of from the start you really care about, at least I really cared about all the characters and the mystery of it, kind of that the mysterious atmosphere, and simultaneous sort of nostalgic effect. The idea of a group of people coming together wanting to believe in something, with this mystery backdrop and some really cool sci-fi fantasy elements as well. That's what I love. Some of the things.
Right.
Hi.
Hey. Yeah, sure. I think um I really like the show for its unique I think its unique approach of multiple dimensions, like or simple words, the multiverse idea of it. And so that was the concept of the show. And rewatching it, I was like, we mentioned before recording that I like this much more now rewatching it
Do you
because,
think seeing it after the second season, like rewatching it after watching the second season, made you like it more?
well, yes, but when I was watching when I was rewatching it the first season, there were plot points that did set up the second season.
Mm-hmm.
So I what was the episode? I think it was either chapter 4 away or either chapter 4, chapter 4 away, when I say Homer like does I say was in the machine that makes him do the NDE, and then he goes to this weird place, and I didn't realize that place was the hospital that all of them are going to go in the dimension in second season.
Mm-hmm.
So when I noticed that, I was like, oh no, they did set this up. So that made
Yeah.
me more like it.
That's one of the other things I love about the show is everything is very careful. Everything has been set up so meticulously. Nothing's an accident. Truly, like every detail the creators have put thought into. And I think
Yes.
that's really neat.
Yeah. What was it in chapter 5, Paradise, when everyone discovered the movements? Well, of course, towards the end of chapter 4, when Perry and Homer, discovered the movements and save, Scott. Chapter 5, you see, chapter 5, Perry, well, the OA explained to the kids, well, her group, the rules that set up, and then she mentioned one plot line that I didn't notice that kind of helps in the second season about Homer not remembering. You remember in season 2, he wasn't there with the others when they went to their new bodies in the new dimension, and so it explained that if I shouldn't have written the rules, but like it say like if you travel to dimension, you're gonna forget from your previous experience, and so that was set up in this season. So yeah. Yeah, I really like the show. I think in general I like it because the characters. I really like the production value of this show. Was very gorgeous. Feels like a movie in a lot of ways. And yeah, and it has very very interesting stuff to talk about. The dimensions and the religion and spiritual ways. And yeah, and you're right about believing in something, which is like very unique with the characters specifically. Okay, so let's get into like the best aspects, like the best thing about the show for you. Like a very specific thing. in the show you like that makes it the best?
Specific as in,
I guess like characters or like something in the show does you haven't seen in the show, like any shows.
um, hmm, it's a good question. I feel like there's sort of so many
Yeah,
things. There's a lot to kind of untangle in the show, but I guess just sort of the surreal atmosphere. Um, like I don't think I've ever seen a show with that created established an atmosphere like that so effectively and so quickly. Um, like from the first, I was drawn in from the first few minutes, even like the first scene where it's this kind of unusual perspective of like that a kid filming from his iPhone
yeah.
as the OA is like jumping off the bridge. That's it was a really interesting way to start,
Show.
interesting perspective, and I think that kind of continues throughout the show. Different sort of just unique, surprising elements that add to an overall atmosphere. I don't know if that's as specific as you wanted, but
No, I think
it's kind of.
I think that's very good. That's what best aspect of the show is. Perspective and stuff like that. I should go. Best part about this show is the handle of characters and how they correlate each other and how Perry affects them very well and like
Yeah.
and then also like Perry, the OA herself is a very interesting character, and she's very interesting and she's like very easy to listen to. Um, so yeah, those some. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I agree with all that too. I think that's the other like I would say that's my other favorite thing, I guess.
Yeah. I do have one plan with one character. For I don't know. I have mixed feelings for this character. But I will mention the worst aspect of the show. I think that the show does a really good job handling these characters. They're not stereotypical. I feel for each character. I guess I don't want to get into like best characters in the show, but half of them are very interesting and very good. I also mentioned production, design, and sound, and the music. I think the best part is music. I really like the music of the show. It really draws you in with the OA's universe and using the the vanillin as a like a motif with Perry's, because she's from Russia and she played the violin with her father, for her father when he has high. And music really does a good job, and the soundtrack is also good. Probably my favorite was in chapter 4, Away, and there's a song I don't know, it's called "Crazy on You" or something like that. When they resurrect Scott and the sun just kicks in, and then you see Hap, of course, played by Jason Isaacs. He comes down and is just shocked and is like, "Oh my God, it's real!" And that chapter made me love this, like reminding me of the show why I love it. So it's very good. Okay, I will say, what's the worst aspect of the show for you? Like, is there any nitpicks or any?
For me personally, I love it, but it's the one thing I would say is it's not for everyone. Like it's a very I wouldn't just show it to like any of my friends necessarily. Like I would it's not necessarily accessible. It's very abstract in a lot of ways. And it's kind of, especially the first season, is kind of a slow burn. and that's just, that's not everyone's taste, and that's fine. I think for the people that love the show, it's extremely effective. But in order for that to be the case, you have to compromise a little bit of, I guess you can't really please everyone when you're making something that's so pointed. But yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think, yeah, there's a lot of things I do want to answer. I guess obviously you think the show is accessible for everyone? Like,
No, I think it's not. That's what I'm
okay,
saying. I think that's kind of the downside, is it's definitely not accessible for everyone. It's not for everyone.
right.
Not everyone will get it, and not everyone will like it, because it is very unique and it's very unusual, and some people will find certain aspects of it ridiculous, sort of in how kind of abstract they are. For me personally, all of those things work really well, but I can understand that it's not going to be for everyone.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I had the same thing as well. Like, just thinking, like, is this like a accessible show? Because I like it, because I like the unique sci-fi things they do with, going to like like discussing the multiverse and how
Yeah.
I like how, like, it's very interesting how they're using like definite experience. That's what they call it. Or what is it?
Near death experiences.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Near death experience, and use that as that's like a teleportation device to go to one dimension to another. That's very interesting. Which I can get that's like kind of weird, but then it kind of makes sense because you're going to the afterlife, and that's like a very cool way to rope that into a science fiction idea. So that's one of the things I like that. Um, yeah. Another thing, this show, like specifically in the first season, I know is, I mean, I it's in I noticed this in Wikipedia. A lot of people compared this to Stranger Things, and I want to ask you about that. Do you think this is compared to Stranger Things? And also, like, have you seen the show?
I haven't seen, so I've seen a couple episodes of Stranger Things. I haven't seen the whole show.
Right.
To be honest, for me, Stranger Things didn't grab me the same way that the OA did. Um, However, I do see the overlap. Like, I see where people would see that overlap in kind of, there's a mystery, there's a group of kids that are kind of trying to solve this mystery. So like, I can definitely see some similarities, but I think the tone is very different. I think Stranger Things is more, I think it does have more widespread appeal
Yeah.
than the OA. It's a little bit less abstract, I think, from what I have seen of it. And
It.
I think it's going for something a little different. I think that there's the OA. I know one of the things that Stranger Things is famous for is kind of incorporating these elements of like 80s horror and that kind of thing. And that's not really like a theme in the OA.
No. They do, like, they also do dimensions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not like what they're doing, like teleporting. Like, they go to another alternate dimension that have these creatures, and where it's very straightforward and like cut and dry. And then also they have other, like, it has a very Stephen King vibe where you're talking like dimensions, like the Mist, novel, and the movie, the 2007 one, and like a little bit of Carrie with 11 with the telepathic powers, where you're getting every aspect of a sci-fi 80s / horror aspect. Yeah, and I agree with you. I seen the show. I seen 3 seasons. I love the show as well. I got into it after I saw It Chapter 1, of course. And obviously there's one actor from Stranger Things that's in that movie. Plays Richie, the other main character in that movie. Yeah. This I never like. It's kind of like I never really see the comparisons at all. But before you mentioned about the group with Buck, BBA, Steve. Oh my God, I'm gonna say Scott, and then Alfonso. Like, yeah, you're right about that. That's the one element that is similar to Stranger Things, but it doesn't, like, of course, I probably want to get into, I guess, the worst aspect. Do you think the show is stereotypical sometimes with its characters? Do you think that's where people just are
The
not?
OA.
Yeah. Do you have ever sense there's a stereotypicalness with some characters? For me, there's only one character I think is stereotypical, but the others I have no problem with that. The one character I have no problem with is Buck. I think she is a very fascinating character. They handle the transgender very well.
He,
Oh, he Mich- yeah. Correct me about
Yeah.
that subject. But I want to say overall, Buck is a very great character that is handled very well, and they handled the transgender issue and identity and the themes of it very well on the show, and I like it. So
yeah, and Ian Alexander does a fantastic job.
yes, he does a really good job. Great.
Yeah, I think that's a great. I really think. I'm trying to think. I would say in terms of the main characters, I think they're all pretty unique characters. I don't think any of them like rely that heavily on stereotypes. Is there? I know you said there's like one character that you think does.
Not stereotypical, I guess. When I mean one character, I don't care. Like, I think it's just the way they have the show. Like why I need this to learn about this character. Where the others, I can get a sense of it.
Got it.
I want to say worse characters in the show, if there's worse characters for you. But yeah, yeah, and then I'll give a hint. Is one character in the group, and so, but it's not the one. It's just one character. I'm like,
Jesse.
No, Jesse's fine.
Okay.
This one character, like I was like, really, and then towards the end, I was like, really, like I don't know. Yeah. And then quickly to wrap up the Stranger Things comparison, because this show came out, like specifically the first season came out in yeah. Oh, okay. It came out in December, and then Stranger Things came out in July. So I thought I don't know, I saw it came out either July, but it came out the same year. So Stranger Things. Oh, so I'm done with that. I thought it came out the same month, but no, it came.
I'm just gonna plug this in very quickly. 1 second.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I guess we talked about worst aspect of the show as possible we can do. Let's get into best characters of the show. So do you have a favorite character of the show, Becca? I'm curious.
I love the OA. I think she's a great character.
She's great.
Yeah, I mean, I do love most of the characters in the show, but yeah, I do love the OA. I think Britt Marling's portrayal is phenomenal, and I think she's a unique character. I think you really see her arc in terms of development, and the way she tells her story, the way she acts as a almost magical force binding the others together, but yet she still feels like a person. It's hard to do that, I think.
Yes, it's very true. Rewatching this, I was like very impressed. Like, especially the high, like this show does a very good job of handling the high concept ideas of multiple dimensions, and like also discussing about near death experience. Like they tackle a lot of like high concept ideas of sci-fi, or like something that is very relatable that can happen, like disappearance, kidnapping, and like it's like very
Just
heavy stuff.
like psychological as well, like trauma
Yeah.
is handled well. And aside from the OA, also just from a psychological perspective, like I think Steve's character is interesting.
Yeah. Steve is very good.
Also just commentary on modern day society. There's a scene I love in at the beginning of the show, in the first episode with Steve, and when the OA goes to pretend to be Steve's mother.
Yes, which is, by the way, the best scene, and like one of the most like like the most motivated like speeches I heard. That was
Yep.
so real. So good.
I love that scene.
Oh,
Yeah.
and best for BB-8 as well.
Yes,
I
BB-8 is also a great character.
yeah, I continue with the scene. I think you were saying something though.
Oh, just that was like a good example of just commentary on society and on, I think, the need for empathy.
Mhm.
Like just the whole show paints the picture of the fact that we live in a world that really lacks the empathy that we need in order to kind of heal ourselves and others.
Yeah.
And I think the show does a good job of portraying the strength in empathy.
Yeah, and well, and also like appreciating what you have, right? Because the OA, like throughout the season, she's telling these stories, and then especially in, I think was in episode 7, when Perry is getting a drive with Alfonso. He talked about, you tell us so much of the story, and you trust us, and then, but you know that's your parents, right? Because Perry hasn't told them about the experience, and and so far she's been very disconnected with them entirely. But you see that with throughout the flashbacks, and like her especially, she's been always been the odd one out because of how her abilities are, and how the parents are just trying their best to make her better, with the nosebleed and using medication and stuff like that. And it's like, and especially because the way she affects the mom, and how especially towards the end, she mentioned how she wanted a daughter, and she really loved her, and because she was blind. But then when she went away, she just couldn't take it, and she felt very disappointed. But especially because the note she left for her parents, especially the father, which I want to say the cast here are pretty amazing. I mean, my favorite character has to be Perry's father. I want to give a shout out to Scott Wilson Abel Johnson. That's the character's name. I think he's the best character I really love. Of course, Scott is also in The Walking Dead, folks. He played Marshall, Maggie's father, if you know him from The Walking Dead. He's such an incredible actor. Unfortunately, he passed away 2018. Yes, October 6th, 2016, unfortunately. And he had a cameo in second season, which I was very happy of. And I was like, we truly lost another great actor in the industry. And I felt his character was really great. He was very supportive of Perry. He did the best, like he had the interest of Perry's, well-being. And I think he did that very well, where the mom, as usual, she, every mom, tries their best, but, not doing away, I think, wasn't the instance for that character. I felt like Abel was able to give Perry the love and at least support she needs. And like, especially, I think the scene in either chapter 4, I think it was around 4, either 4 to 6, you see a scene when they're driving to the FBI therapist, and she lays down to her head to his shoulders. Great scene. It just shows that she felt more comfortable with him over the mom. So I want to give a shout out to that for the best character there. And then Steve as well. He's second after Abel. Very interesting character. I like how his character grows and acts more mature. And you totally see that throughout the season, especially when we get to episode 7, when he was going to get into the boot camp. And, especially when the whole, like, him touching the kid's throat comes up again in episode 7, and how he said he will talk to it instead of just fighting for it, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And so I think his character was well handled in this season. Any other characters we should mention?
BB-8. I think BB-8.
Well, yeah, BB-8 is great.
Go on.
Let's get to BB-8. I really like BB-8 as well. I would prefer Abel. If in terms of the main group, who's my favorite, is definitely BB-8. I think I feel sorry for the character. I love her. Obviously, she's one of those actresses that's from The Office, but also she is one of my favorite characters in Inside Out. Of course, she voiced Sandus, which is totally great, and I think she's great in the show. I feel like, especially her brother's story is very relatable, and I think she is very likable. She's one of those characters that I can understand. She's another character, like, you do want to feel empathy. You mentioned how the theme empathies with each character for their different issues, where she's, getting older, she's, lost her brother, twin brother, as she mentioned in the show, and you're just like her just questioning like what I'm doing right now. It's like, is it worth it? And so when she meets the OA, she starts to be more confident, and she connects to more with the kids, like how teachers, you see that teacher connecting to students thing, but she's doing more better because she's with these other kids that need help. And like, you saw how the BB-8 helped Steve to go to the what is it, the detention, I guess. Where she meets her girlfriend. Who's the girlfriend's name? Kate, that's her name. Katie, I think it's her name. So like, I totally forgot Katie was introduced in the first season.
She was, yeah.
Season 2 a lot, and I was like, oh yeah, she's in this. And it was funny in episode 3 when
Angie, I think.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's Angie. Yes, correct. Thank you. Yeah, and Angie is a very interesting character, and this show, I want to say, going back best aspect of the show, this show did a really good job of setting up things, and of course, apparently they have a 5-part plan of this show. It's disappointing.
And just while you're talking about BB and Steve, I just want to bring up the way that they kind of parallel Steve with BB-8's brother when he puts on the
snow jumpsuit.
Yeah, and I think they kind of, it's like she sees her brother in Steve.
Yeah.
And they kind of bring themes of that back. And I think that's like what connected the OA kind of planted the seeds for turning BB-8, who had kind of just become bitter at a certain point, and then reminding her, this is like why you became a teacher in the first place, and there are people like your brother that need help. Like, maybe if they had someone, like maybe if he had someone like you as a role model, things would have ended differently.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, it's very interesting. I think BB-8 has that way, though. Like, she's the more mother, she's second command after the OA in terms of mother figure. So I can view that, because I put Steve connected to OA as he is the Homer of that group.
Yeah,
especially because how he's the one that's running towards the end of the series. You see them try to follow the ambulance after she gets shot by the shooter, and he runs, like he still continues to run, and so it shows this parallel that he's the Homer of that group, and he has the more connected with Perry, because Perry is the mother figure for Steve, and she's the one that gives Steve a direction that he didn't have before. And so I put that where BB-8 is just, I say, she's second command in terms of the group, and a lot of interesting ways as she's becoming like an actual teacher to them, reminding them, a certain time that Perry needs to go back, or saving not only Steve, but also connected to Jesse as well, another character that's also interesting. Because they have this with, sorry, alarm. I say you had that especially with Buck and Alfonso, how those two characters connected, how they're very I didn't notice that, but they're very high accomplished, but they have personal you know goings in their
They have
life.
very different families, and for one thing, Alfonso or French, they his parents are just absent. His mother's completely, he's basically taking care of his mother.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Buck has these kind of overbearing parents that refuse, that intentionally misgender him.
The father does that,
yeah,
which is crazy, because he's the one that say did he say a comment oh, it should be called he, or no she?
well, they just would call him Michelle.
Yeah, right.
Which comes up in the second season, obviously, but
yeah,
they refuse to see him for who he is and want him to be this perfect
child
daughter, really. And but he kind of looked up to French, I think, for his accomplishments, and so they really connect, like you said, both being kind of high achieving, but with slightly different backgrounds behind that.
Yeah, and Buck is the one that gets Alfonso to be still part of the group, because obviously the storyline of him trying to not get in trouble and weird, because his career counselors told him that, and so that's going on. So, but he's drawn to that, and as we mentioned before, empathy. Perry is the mother figure that Alfonso really wants. Of course, he still loves his mom, but he doesn't see the mom who his mom is completely broken as a person, and and just doesn't give the love that he needs after just working so hard to to provide the family. So so that's one thing that's very interesting, and it just goes back about empathy. What else? I guess let's kind of get into Jesse. I like Jesse as a character. He's very interesting. What's your thoughts on Jesse as a character?
I think he's a good character. I think he doesn't get a lot of character development until the second season. I think he's kind of the one character who's a little bit neglected in season 1, but they definitely make up for that in season 2.
Yeah, I never thought about. I was rewatching this. I was like, now you mentioned, I was watching, and it was like, he hasn't really been put together with some of the characters. I think if you put him with the BB-8, I think they can be more relatable.
Yeah.
Had something, because we have that, was in episode 2 when they got done with the first meeting. He goes back home. He talks to his sister, I guess.
Yeah.
And of course she's smoking marijuana and drugs, etc. and he talks about angels and about his dad, and then of course, or his mom. Sorry, his mom. Who unfortunately committed suicide, which that foreshadows someone a certain death going to happen in season 2, which very shocking. I didn't realize that was like a foreshadow of that he probably going to commit suicide, which he does in season 2. And I love that scene because I noticed they mentioned Stanley Kubrick. So that was the one part I like Jesse. So Jesse's very cool. Yeah, you're right. They didn't give much about Jesse besides just token moments, really. He has that one moment with BB-8 when they're trying to clean up her brother's rehab, staying home. And then he starts talking to her, and then kind of understands what she's going through, and so but really just token moments, really. Nothing too like apparent, like not too character development for that character, so unfortunately. But I say my third character besides Abel and BB-8, let's talk about the other character, Hunter Hep, of course, the main antagonist of the show. I want to talk more about that character. Tell me what you think about that main antagonist of Hep.
Yeah, I mean, so he's obviously a well-written villain. He has like a very clear motivation, and he's not just like evil for the sake of it. Like you understand what he's trying to achieve, but
yeah.
I mean, I feel like, at least for me, watching, you can't help but hate him. Which is what you're supposed to. I mean, so great character, despicable person.
Yeah. I mean, I think was it episode 2 is where I got really hooked in the show, and the best part of him is he has style and like gravitas. The villain, and what's so funny about it? In episode 2 when he takes Perry to his little cabin, and obviously the basement downstairs. She's trying to call her parents for the telephone, right? And he puts the song from Jim Cross, one of my favorite artists, of course. He does Time in the Bottle. Yes. I was like, when I was watching it, I was like, what the heck? Like, it was so like metaphorically, and it was just, oh my God, a great way for me to get into that show. And that episode 2 is the great episode.
Well, you like Hap's taste in music. So
yeah. Well, I mean, besides, I don't care about the rock thing to cover their voices, whatever, but like it's just funny how you use operator, and like you don't understand the context of that song because it foreshadows how like Perry not calling her, trying to call her parents, but then unfortunately couldn't do it.
Well,
yeah, Hep is a very interesting character. I like him too. He's a very fascinating foil for the OA, and just like it's very interesting how he's it's kind of interesting how you find the 4 main characters from their accent, but you find Perry accidental, and then he fall in love with her, and so which adds another dimension to their pairing, and so it's very interesting. Other things that like it's interesting about Hap, like it's interesting how he handles death as well. Like he goes to these extreme measures of like just trying to keep this work, tightly secret. Like it was interesting how. Oh, sorry.
No. I just think one of the most another thing in terms of psychologically interesting characters and dynamics is the way that he perceives, like he wants to keep insisting that the OA, like that she's his partner, like talking about it like she's his partner and she's a captive.
Yes.
But like that's how he's in his mind, like that's how he sees it, because he's deluded himself into believing that she is invested in him and his work in the way that he wants her to be.
Yeah, very interesting. Like what's the word for him? Like authority complex. The way how he controls people. Especially those 5 characters. Yeah, like it was. You had a good point, like bringing up about him saying partner, and it's very interesting. It's like it's contradicting because you're forcing her to live in the basement, and obviously, the way Perry handles stuff is a lot more efficient and just getting stuff done quickly. I mean, she's the one. Like she literally helps all of them define the movements, knowing what Hap is doing to them, and so like she was really the leader, where Homer is like second command. Hep is very interesting, and obviously he's great in season 2, and very interesting. I guess we need to get into the, of course, the OA's original group. Of course, Homer, Scott, Rachel, and Renata.
Nada.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we talk for a second about Sharon Van Etten?
Sure.
She plays Rachel and is also
yes.
She's also a singer, and she plays Rachel as a character as a singer, and her voice is the same way that Prairie has the kind of supernatural ability to play violin after having her NDE. Then Rachel has this amazing voice, and likewise her the actress Sharon Van Etten that plays her is she's a singer and all kind of alternative singer, and very good music in general. So it's great kind of getting to hear her sing on the show as well.
Yes, Rachel is a good character. I like her. And speaking of season 2, it was very ironic when she goes to the dimension of where everyone, she doesn't sing and she has no voice, which is very poetic. And so,
yeah, to see it meant for sure. And I think, like you said earlier, kind of mentioning parallels between between the original group and the Crestwood group. And there's definitely some parallels between Rachel and BB-8.
Yes,
with they both have like with the brother and with.
Yes, that's right. Good point. Yeah.
There's a scene with that red bike as well, where Buck drives past the red bike. That's a separate thing, but
yeah. Now think about that. Yeah.
The red backpack again. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Nate, for that.
No, that's all. That was the main thing that I had to say about on that topic.
No, you think it's good you mentioned that group and apparently into the what was it, the town they live in,
Crestwood.
Yeah, Crestwood group. So apparently I mentioned Steve is the Homer of that group. So Steve is Homer, and then yes, I agree with you, Rachel is BB-8. So BB-8 is Rachel, and then Jesse is Scott. So, but in interesting ways, because I can't really connect him to either Buck or Alfonso. Correct me if you think so, but I think
the only thing I would say is they kind of make it unclear in terms of like Homer, because then you also have the scene where French sees Homer in the mirror.
Oh, yes.
So there's sort of, I know some like different theories about that, whether that was just kind of an illusion, and like what the implications of that are, I guess.
It's kind of like a psychological breaking for each character after this.
Yeah.
After just finishing the story, I don't think we should read too much on it. It's just that he's reflecting on that this is all fake.
Yeah.
After finding those books in season 8, episode 8 in season 1, and which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, honestly, but whatever. Like I mean, like you think it's like, oh, like she wants to read how she can do this, do that by reading books. It's not mean like she's taking these books and making a story like in the usual suspect. You know, you look at the board and like, okay, let me make my story up and all this stuff that's in the background of this board in the usual suspect movie. Sorry, spoilers in that movie, but like I yeah, I just like he's just thinking like how you say conveniently how she tells the story, like, you know, because Homer, you know, crack his head when he's in the Cuba, but you know, where, you know, Alfonso got a fight with Steven, that's how he got his cut in the forehead. And so I mean that's not like it's just convenient. I just think he's overthinking too much.
Yeah. Do
That's
you think he like in some way sees himself as Homer in a certain sense?
mm,
I don't know.
I probably have to disagree with that. But I mean, hey, we can agree and disagree. I can see what you're saying. Yeah, like I think I will want to get into like a split that I think Alfonso and Steve represent the different personalities of Homer, right? That
Yeah.
I can definitely agree with. Where Homer, Steve, right? Steve is like the leader of the group. He's the one that like
Yeah.
takes charge, and then and you totally see that with Steve's personality after getting into the OA, and like he starts to mature
And
more.
the one that believes the most fiercely in her as well. They both have that role.
Exactly. That's why I put him more in Homer. Um, I'm trying to think in terms of Alfonso. I think he's like the more vulnerable and like how you say it, like family man Homer. Like the stuff we get Homer, how he's a father and like
Yeah.
and you know he's very vulnerable and like he can't like he's similar to that. So he's like the more vulnerable. He's like the personal side of Homer,
Yeah.
Alfonso, and so he really goes to that direction. But I I guess I will retract my saying of Jesse to Scott. I think I will say Alfonso is more like Scott, where
Mm,
he is hesitant to get into this part. That's how Scott.
that's true.
That's how Scott was before he gets his another near death experience, and then he got saved by Homer and Perry, and
Yeah.
so forth. And so I feel like he's more of Scott. Um, because yeah, there's 5 characters, and then
There's also some parallels with, I know we said BB-8 and Rachel, but then there's also some parallels to Buck and Rachel. They both have, they both have beautiful voices.
yes,
Um,
yeah,
and he, the thing with him driving by the red backpack, as well, and also in the beginning of spoiler for the second season, but the fact that Buck is the one that hears Rachel's voice.
yes, that's very true. That's very true. Yes, that's very true. Um, well, yes, when when
We'll
they're
talk about that, but just to
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of draw in.
I should like I should we should iterate for the audience that's listening to the podcast. Like it's really hard to talk about season 1 because this really affects season 2, and so and especially I mentioned earlier to Becca in this conversation that I like this season more because I picked up the specific points they were setting up for season 2, and that made me like this season a lot more because I didn't rewatch season 1 when season 2 was coming out in March last year. So and they had recaps, of course, but I didn't realize they did set up stuff in season 2, and so I like that more. Like I mentioned before, we got the dimension that Homer went to. That's the place they were going to go to in season 2, and that's the main setting for them.
Yeah.
And then what was it? And then also setting up how probably Homer will be the one that will be forgotten when he travels with them because of Perry's not there, and
Mhm.
that's a major plot point.
And I think in general, one thing to say about the show is that you can watch it a lot of times and pick up something new every time you watch it, which is another cool aspect of the show.
Yes, I
Um,
totally got that. For me, yeah, I did that. I want to mention something that I didn't pick up was the shooter for season one. Of course, there's a kid that is a shooter, comes to school,
Mhm.
and that's how they start doing their movements, and that's how Perry travels dimension, and that's her precognitive uh dream, her new dream
Mhm.
that she's preconting because of that moment. I didn't realize they set that up early. I think it was in episode 3 or 4. You hear a news outlet in BBA's home. You hear something about a mall shootout, and I
Mhm.
didn't realize they set up that early. And then I didn't. When we get to episode 8, I was like, "Oh my god, this is totally fine. They set this up early." So that was such a big setup, like a big
Yeah, they did.
foreshadow that's gonna happen. I was like, "Oh wow, they did this." Um, there was something else they set up like for season 2. I was like, oh, and I guess I was very clear on what they were doing. I thought they were talking about the afterlife. For like initially, first season, I thought they were talking about like the afterlife, how you could travel there and the dimensions, but I didn't realize they were talking in general another dimension in reality to another world in the dimensions. So I didn't realize that they're just using the near death experience as a travel mechanism, like in time travel stuff, you have a time machine and stuff like that. They use the near death experience as a way you can travel to different realities, and so it's very interesting. So I appreciate more of the rules they were setting up of season 1 and
Yeah.
how it actually makes sense in season 2. Because, but yeah, going back to the characters. Um, then we talked about Rachel, Scott, on paralleling the groups. So, like, what do you think about the fifth member we got, Renee?
Yeah, Renata, she's an interesting character. She's obviously kind of apart from the others. Like she's um obviously resentful of Homer from the beginning since he was instrumental in
Getting everyone.
trapping her there.
Yeah.
um
Oh,
and yeah, so from the beginning she's kind of set up, and then Hap also uses that to try to divide Prairie and Homer. So I mean, it's interesting. It creates another dynamic when she comes because she's divided, both she's divided from them and she creates a divide between them, or at least that's what Hap tried to do by bringing her, but in the end she's still comes together with them, so it's not really successful. But
in that one episode, it's like, yep. In chapter 5, um, what I was gonna say, yeah, chapter 5 is where Scott gets his near death experience again, and he's more connected to Jess actually.
mm,
Right? Jess, despite him being part of that group, he's that the outlier of that group as well. You know, he connects to the group as well, but like he doesn't have personal, like he doesn't connect with the other group of members of the pair, the OA's new group, where same thing with Renea, where she's a new person in that group, and of course she start and just like this, she tags along, but like she doesn't get,
yeah,
and both of them don't get character development. They're just like the ends of the means for the plot, where Renea is that for season 1, and then Jess is that specifically in season 2,
yeah.
and they don't get character development. So yeah, so those two are similar. Who else? Oh, I guess um, there's a character that was prior to Renea. The character that unfortunately died.
Autumn.
Huh?
Autumn,
Autumn.
the one
Yeah,
that died.
yeah. When we get to I think episode 3, when Hep had the the electric uh, food that what Perry was trying to get him to sleep, but fortunately failed. So that's the woman.
In the bathtub.
Yeah.
Yeah, Autumn.
Autumn. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
They said they called her because she came in autumn or something, I believe. Though you don't. Yeah, it's kind of a mysterious character. You don't really find out much about her, other than that.
Very interesting.
Seems like she had a connection with Rachel. Rachel, the one who's the most affected by
that death.
She's found. And I know I've read some, like, just because obviously there are so many theories about the OA.
Yeah.
But I know there were some theories that she was actually like a baby.
What?
That was something that I read.
I cannot see that. Well, I mean, I was like, no, she's a grown adult. How you can say she's a baby? I guess.
Well, you don't know. No one necessarily knows.
Yeah, she was.
They didn't show her body.
Yeah, I don't know. I could say she's like Angela when we get to her in season 2. Be more like that. Like, what is it? Like Rachel is BB-8. Yeah, I like, or she could be more like Jessie, how her death affects a couple of people, and but
that's true.
I mean, I'm just trying to get some ideas for that character. I guess I guess you have any instrument like theories, ideas that the fan community came up with season 1, like you can discuss that a little bit more.
I mean, there are a lot of them. Of course, it's hard to talk about that now with season 2 because certain things have been confirmed or denied.
That's true.
In season that were originally theories for season 1, but not so much a theory, but I think I remember one that I read that was interesting about kind of like biblical themes and the sort of like the story of like Adam and Eve.
Yes.
In a sense, and like connections with that, and then sort of to the tree of knowledge, which I think kind of comes in more in the second season as well with the tree. But it's yeah, I mean there are a lot of theories, but I think it is hard to talk about some of the season 1 theories now since they were kind of proven or not or disproven in a lot of ways in season 2. So I think once we talk about season 2, we can probably talk more about theories that we'll never know if they hopefully we'll know someday. Hopefully they are able to continue the show. But
yes, hopefully for a movie. That's the best way I can see it, Yeah, me too. But oh dear. Well, we'll discuss that more in season 2. Okay. I think we can go into the worst characters in this show. I'm curious. I mean, let's be honest, people. Everyone in this show is great. I'm just saying, when I say worst characters in the show, I'm saying we're just nitpicking on the characters that didn't get character development. Characters that I'm like, okay, but I don't like this direction, or like, I initially thought, So I have my main character. I want to get out of Jessie. Like, that's the one character I discovered that, okay, you're right, Becca. That
in season 1, again, if we're solely talking about season 1, he didn't get a lot of development.
Yeah, but I mean, Jessie is the one character I can label as the most underdeveloped character. We couldn't done more with the character. As I mentioned before, he has token moments, but that's not enough to make me like the character. But I like the character. I don't hate him. But I mean, that's unfortunate. But he gets better material in season 2, and sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Like you said, and same thing with Renata, I would say.
Yes, that's true. Yes, she has more interesting things in season 2. I need to rewatch season 2. I remember. Yeah. But the one character I have, so that's not my main character. So my main character that I want to discuss, the one character I feel like I'm not really, I don't care. I don't like. I guess it'd be a controversial decision, but I gotta say I don't. I think the worst character, the nitpick character I have is Alfonso. I, I don't know. I'm frustrated with this character, and and then I didn't realize was in episode 5 or 6 when he goes to that like scholarship dinner. Like I didn't realize his mom is French. I was like, what? Oh, okay. Because I had to put I put the what was it subtitles to hear very interesting sayings like instant things that the characters were saying.
Yeah.
She mentioned, oh, I was in Paris. I came here. Like I was like, oh, so you are a French person. Oh, okay. Alfonso, I get frustrated with this character a couple times. From episode, I guess episode 3 to 6, where I really like the character and he becomes part of the from episode 3 to 8, I connected with the character, but he gets into that paranoia idea like that's not real. And then also like you're adding too much drama of this character. He used drugs to keep his mind clear. He's his family, and then into season 2 we discover he is gay. I'm like, I don't know, I feel like they don't have a handle with Franco, or it's just me. Becca, tell me, like, you think he's the one character they don't have a grasp with, or you can just...
Yeah, I mean, I can understand what you're saying. I think his character development isn't as straightforward as some of the other characters, but I personally still liked him as a character. I didn't necessarily have a problem with any of that.
Yeah.
Especially in season 1. I thought the drug thing was, I mean, it was kind of understandable. I think it made sense given the stress he was under. I thought it was realistic, and it also was a key tying point because that was how he and Buck knew Steve, and like they weren't in the same social circles. They all met in that house, basically buying drugs, and that was when the OA came into the house looking to borrow someone's Wi-Fi as well. So that kind of in some ways was how they all ended up together in a certain sense. So
Right.
But I do see what you're saying. I think compared to some of the other characters, his development was like a little harder to follow, I guess.
Yeah. I guess because compared to other characters, he's not straightforward. I guess I liked him more rewatching season 1, but I just felt like there was like unnecessary things we had to add to that character. But not in this season. I think I'm more complaining in season 2. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but so I don't know. I guess I had mixed feelings with Alfonso.
Right.
I don't know. I thought initially, like, I guess when I was watching, I was get okay. He's like a stereotypical Latino person, and then when I got to 5, or when I get to the later episodes, I discovered no, he's a French person. I mean, French mixed American. I don't know. I'm confused. Okay. What's characters besides him? I'll say I'll put him in more of like not like he has
Or
more.
just kind of confusing, I guess.
Yeah. I guess I don't care about his other, like his family, like, but then I care more about his mom, I guess, and maybe I want more of that in the later season, but whatever. What do you think about Perry's mom? That's not her character. Like,
Yeah, I mean, she's an interesting character, and you kind of feel bad for her, and you kind of understand her. But yeah, she's definitely a frustrating character to me. She doesn't understand her daughter.
yeah,
And she it's like she adopted this girl and kind of made her into the daughter that she wanted
Yeah.
rather than who she really is. She was ultimately trying to help her, but suppressed a lot of the things that made her who she was. When she comes back after being in captivity, there's a lot of tension in that relationship. That kind of continues, and then you find out that she hid the letter from her husband,
Yeah.
from Abel, which is not great.
I mean, like, why? Like,
So
I mean, you should understand your husband. Oh, sorry.
I know they explained the reason why she did it is because she thought it would upset him because the OA talks about going to find her father. So she thought it would upset Abel because he's her adoptive father. So basically make him think like, oh, am I not enough? Like, but the obviously Nina had a very strong connection with her father and she wanted to find him. So
Yeah. Yes. I mean that part when I saw it the first time and then rewatching it, I was like, oh. And I
that's just another great character is Nina's father.
yes, I agree. Yeah, the Russian stuff are very interesting, and it just adds like the grandiose of the show. She's
Yeah.
like another, you know, nationality person from another nation, and then they did a really good job with the culture of Russia,
Mm.
and very well detailed. Yeah, he was a very interesting character. Oh well, and another character is very interesting is the Khantun. Um,
Oh,
her,
Khatun, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, very interesting character. Um, yeah. I kind of said we don't get her in season 2,
Yeah. You're
and
right.
like, but I mean, well, but I mean, of course, that. I mean, you can say like she's like a advisor of trying to take Perry to a direction, to a path she needs
Yeah.
to go to. So, I mean, after that point, she's done. Um, yeah. What other characters we should mention? Oh, we should mention Reza May character, the FBI, Alice, the FBI trauma counselor.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing I want to talk about theories like him specifically. We can talk about him specifically entering season 2 because
Yeah.
he's the character I was. Because how season 2 when just a minor spoiler for season 2 where he knows about the dimension hopping, he knows what's going on,
Hmm.
and you're thinking, okay, how?
Yeah.
And we watching season 1, there is a setup that he probably knows it and is not
Mm.
letting it. Like I think what was it the scene in where you see Perry in episode 6 or 7, she does that little ball that goes to the maze, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How she explains how she needs to go this dimension, and she has that ball rolling down the
Yeah.
he
So
catches.
he's playing like he doesn't get it, but obviously he kind of was in on it the whole time. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was where I was like, okay, maybe she actually knows it. That maze thing and the ball falling out the tape, almost falling out the tape, but then he catches this and say, "Stay in the board." That's a direct, like, instant mystery
Yeah.
of the viewer. Okay, something is up. Not like big, but like interesting way. Another one was the episode 8 when he goes to Perry's house, which is interesting.
Yeah. Why is he there?
Exactly. And so that makes more sense. And I was like, oh. But then he has something saying to Alfonso, he's like, you did good. You did
Yeah. Yeah.
good. Which indicates that,
He knows something.
yeah, like, or they like everyone did good in terms of the movements, maybe.
Yeah.
So we don't know about that. So and that's where, in terms of the future, that he could have played a bigger role. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And then what else? He, you know, yeah, but he never like he was like the most straightforward, like honest counselor you ever seen, where he didn't pressure on the questions of how
Yeah.
Perry was. That's where you should have actually been kind of more questioned of, okay, he's not talking about that, but like it seems interesting. So he's another character that was very interesting in the show. And then what else? I'm trying to figure out what other characters that was in season 1 we should discuss. Do you have any saying about the father, Abel, and
Oh, I mean, I think he's a great character and a good father to her, and he's
into
definitely.
just favorite episodes? What's your favorite episode of this season?
Oh, I mean, that's hard. I mean, I love, honestly, the first episode's great. I mean, that was what drew me into the show. The ending, and I think the beginning of the second episode with the continuation of her story, of Nina's story, just but particularly the end of the first episode, with the violin and the scenes of Russia, just beautiful filmography there, and as she's telling the story to the Crestwood Five. So that's, I think, really the first. I would kind of have to say the first episode, but the whole show.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of the show, you're gonna like all the episodes. I mean, thank goodness these are not 23 or 20 episodes. Thank goodness they're 8, which is good. I'll say, I wanted to mention also the titles of these episodes are very good. I like how they interrogate in the dialogue and stuff like that. I didn't notice that how chapter 2 is the new Colossus, and that's the actual saying in the Statue of Liberty. That was very cool, why they set that up.
Yeah.
And then they always put the numbers behind the tiles. So New Colossus 2, what that means, chapter 2. So very neat way they tell you what episodes you're in, and then there's the titles of the episodes. I'll say chapter 2, 5, and then from 6 to 7 are my favorite episodes of these seasons. Those are the ones that I pay attention to the most. I also put episode 1 as well. It's a good way to introduction to OA and everyone else. So episode 1, 2, 5 through 7 are the best episodes of this season. So, and for character development and the soundtrack and everything else that we all mentioned before is very good in those episodes specifically, and specifically those characters of the OA's original crew, but also the new crew. So, yeah, I mean, but they're good episodes. I mean, they're very good. Any worse episodes? I guess very quickly. Which one you did not care about?
It's not so much worse episodes, but the one a little bit frustrating would sometimes there would be, and I don't know, I can't even remember which episodes it was, but there would be an episode where the whole thing would be kind of slow, and then like right at the end they would jump into something really intense, and then they'd leave it on a cliffhanger.
Oh, yes.
Like right after it would be very slow, then it would like pick up and you would be like drawn in, and then the episode would end.
Yeah.
But then you would just go to the next one, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's Netflix. Yeah, episode 2 is like that, right? Like,
yeah, that might have been one of them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't remember exactly which episodes it were, but I know that happened a couple of times throughout the show.
Yeah, and then it happens with chapter 5, Paradise, when you got already, I say Rainier, but also Homer and Perry got back alive. Like, it's such a big moment in chapter 5.
Yeah.
And then it like ends very quickly. And then chapter 6, you get into more of like the movements, getting more discover, and then setting up the rules, stuff like that. Yeah, yeah, pace is always difficult to tackle in these shows and try to be consistent throughout. But it's necessary because they need to really discuss thoroughly. Okay, so let's kind of wrap up the stuff, and let's get to kind of like I mean, I should say what's the legacy of the show for season 2, but I guess we can say how you rank, like, do you have other shows you like? How you rank the show in general? Like,
I mean, this is one of my favorite shows
okay.
that I've seen in recent years. I mean, I don't watch a lot of shows. I'm bad at sticking with things that are long, which is another thing I appreciate about the show is it's pretty short. Like it's not any longer than it needs to be to tell a story. And I find that a lot of shows just kind of go on
too long.
So I did appreciate that. Yeah, so it's hard. I mean, it's up there for me.
Yeah. For me, I prefer the more shorter seasons, 13 to 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Damn, I think I didn't put this in well, yeah, because I did was a TV challenge in Facebook.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 10-day challenge, and I didn't put this one because I didn't have a chance to rewatch the show, and I can put it I could put it as my number 11 favorite show, and then or either 12. It's a toss up with that and Stranger Things because these are the shows I watch on Netflix. But yeah, but it's up there with my other 10 favorite shows I see. So
nice.
Yeah. So and it's a very good show, and it it's shortened. It's 8 episodes, which is good because I can get through it, and like I could watch 2 episodes one day, and then like that's how I did this rewatch, just like I did with Stranger Things. I did 2 episodes in one night, and then next day 2 episodes. Either 6 or 8 episodes. Yeah, and I guess discussing the legacy of the show. You think the show like really grew in the first season? Like, what do you think what the legacy of the show is going to be, and then entry in season 2?
What do you mean exactly?
I guess me. I'll say I'll probably explain that more in season 2. But like, do you think everyone likes season 1? Like in general, do you think this season was a good way to properly did it get the ball running?
Like, did it I guess draw people in enough to want more? Yes and no. I mean, again, like I said earlier, it's definitely not for everyone. But it gained an astonishing cult following. So I would say it was pretty effective in garnering the support and admiration of the group of people that it was targeted at. I don't think its appeal is as widespread as I wish it was, but which
has happened with other shows.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, just I mean, it definitely have a polarizing response.
Yes.
Looking at season 1 in general with the reviews, and some say it's the strongest and strangest Richard production since Stranger Things, which is interesting. But I mean, Stranger Things is like very easy to understand in general. And then when someone say like, "Can you take this show serious?" Well, yes, you can, but it's up to you as a viewer.
Agreed.
Like
some people won't, but I think you absolutely can.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I think it's because like you mentioned, psychological development. You're being tricked with your mind as well. So Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Becca, for today's.
Thank you.
And
For having me.
yeah, thanks. It was really great to get into a TV talk, and thank goodness it was the OA. I think I'm happy about that. Be watching it. And you know what, folks, we're gonna discuss season 2. After the recording we stop, we'll discuss more about that and how to schedule that. Um, and then no worry, we're gonna do more OA related content if possible. Honestly, we need to work our schedules. Because I'm very curious to do a top 10 favorite episodes of the show and compare them
Definitely.
to and I haven't made yet a top 10 episodes of the OA, but after rewatching this and then go into season 2, I'm curious to see mine and see yours how it's gonna be shaped. So it's very interesting. So and then we'll probably do a top favorite characters and discuss that. And so I'll come up some of really contests. So those are the ones I have in mind.
Sounds
And
good.
yeah. So thanks, Becca. And thank you everyone for listening to this podcast. And of course, check out the other 2 podcasts I have. Of course, it was the first podcast with Jayan. We're talking about Batman Forever, Chris's 25th anniversary, but also to honor Joel Schumacher, who unfortunately passed away the June 22nd on Monday. And so it was really sad. I'm very happy that I discussed Batman Forever. It's not a bad movie as Batman Robin. Then second podcast was RoboCop 2. It was for his 30th anniversary, and that was with Will. Great discussion as well with that. And of course, Will is also coming back with other related content, specifically the MCU. And our next one will be Iron Man 2. That's haven't yet been set yet, so I need to discuss more of that with Will. And I guess the next podcast you probably see either me, Becca, or John. Of course, John and I will discuss Star Wars, and we'll go from there. So thank you, everyone, and have a good day. Hello, everybody. My name is Andreas Diaz, or my YouTube name, Andreas, the Pop Culture Guy channel presents. Today, we're going to discuss the RoboCop 2 film, directed by Irvin Kershner and starring Peter Weller, Nancy Allen. Today, my co-host today is Will Allen. Will, say hi.
Hey everyone, Andres, thanks for having me.
No problem. So thank you for being here. I know this was, maybe a last minute or just, yeah, I really need to type this film, So this year it has its anniversary. This is the 30th anniversary of the film. Came out in 1990. The release date was in June 22nd, so it was last week. So now, Will, overall, what do you think about this film? And quick question: have you seen the RoboCop films?
I had not previously, but I watched RoboCop last night, and then I watched RoboCop 2 this morning to prepare for this discussion.
Wow! So this is your first time seeing these 2 films? Oh wow!
Yeah, I had never seen them before.
Oh wow, that's incredible. Okay. So let's do a quick impression. What do you think about the first film?
I really enjoyed the first film. I thought it had a lot of cool action scenes. I thought there was a lot of interesting social commentary, especially around policing and capitalism that seems very relevant right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun and just like a really smart satire.
Yeah, it is. Probably the most famous is "I buy that for $1." That's
right. Yeah, that was a good.
Such a
good line that kept showing up.
Yeah, such a running gag in that film. That's so funny. Okay, so that's pretty great because the first film I like it too. It's probably one of my favorite sci-fi films. It's one of the best satires in general. I think it just does everything right. It is kind of like a superhero film done right. Like it's like an origin story for RoboCop. It has so much just meat to it, and like yeah, and you're right. The action is really great. I mean, the drug factory raid was just incredible. I mean, it's just so impactful, and the score by Baz Freiledes, the RoboCop theme is such an iconic thing. It's amazing. So pretty much today we're talking about the sequel, and so getting into RoboCop 2, what do you think about the film as a follow-up? What do you think overall of RoboCop 2, Will?
I thought it was fun, but it wasn't like as strong as the original. There's a running like plot line in the sequel where they're constantly looking for a RoboCop 2, like another candidate to put through the RoboCop program, and they can't find anyone that has the same like intelligence and heart as Officer Murphy, and I feel like that's a great metaphor for RoboCop 2 film as well. It's there's something missing. There's a lot of like really good parts there. It's got a lot of the same parts as the original. There's a lot of the same themes, same great action, but something's missing.
Yeah. I'll just get into my mindset. I think RoboCop 2 is a just okay film. It's a luck. It's other words, it's a lackluster sequel that has so much potential in the film. Like it has so many potential ideas they can explore more, but they just don't take it. Unfortunately, this sequel has so many of like sequel problems of they were rushing to get this film for a release date. They wanted to get a franchise going, and so it just left no time for the creators of this film to develop a very good film, just like the first film, you know. And just quick things, trivia. Like this film is not directed by Paul Verhoeven, the first film director. This film was directed by, of course, Irvin Kershner. Now, if you don't know who Irvin Kershner is for this film, he is the famed director of Empire Strikes Back.
That's right.
So, you have a professional, seasoned director, and I think he did a really good job of the action scenes. Like the action scenes are still good, and I'm very impressed with how they're choreographed and how they shoot, and there's very good sense of what's going on in the scenes. Especially the opening scene. I would say the opening scene of RoboCop 2, when RoboCop arrives in the crime, like the armor robbing store thing, such a iconic thing. It's so bombastic and it's just incredible opening scene.
Yeah. The scene where like that you were talking about where his car blows up and like flips several times, and then he just steps out and he's recreating that poster from the first movie.
Yes. Oh, yes, really cool. That's true. I never thought about that. That's a good point. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, and the thing like starts to kick in when his foot stepped down. Like it gives you that adrenaline, and it's like, oh yes, they're gonna be messed up. So right now, let's go into like, so Will, what's the best aspects of the film? What's the best thing about the film for you?
I think it would have to be the action scenes. There was one particular part around like the midpoint of the movie where there was a car chase and RoboCop was chasing Kane, or it started with Kane driving his van through the streets of Detroit, and RoboCop was like grabbing onto the front of the van.
Yeah.
That action scene had a lot of really cool just like sequences, like the part where Kane is ramming the side of the van into a brick wall and RoboCop's like stuck there and there's sparks flying everywhere because his suit is like rubbing against the wall. But my favorite part of that scene was when they drive the van through that bar. And there's that slow-mo part where you see like it's like subtly slow motion, but you see the bricks come apart and then the van just plows through every part of the bar, and it's like a pretty short shot, but it must have taken so much work to get everything to like break away. And there are actors that are leaving at like the absolute last second to
Yes.
like get out of the way. It's amazingly well coordinated.
Yeah. And quick thing about that scene as well, Will, you can hear someone say "son of a gun" in the background. You can hear it a little bit when the car is coming into that bar. It's
Mhm.
so funny. It's one of those like funny extra saying something, and it's just hilarious. Um, yeah, I totally agree with you. The action scenes are pretty top notch in the film. Um, yeah. Anything else besides the action scenes?
I think there's a lot of like cool ideas in the film. I'm not sure if they were like executed very well, but like the part at the beginning where RoboCop is stalking his former wife, right? I guess
Yeah, his wife.
it's
Well,
still death to us part. Like he kind of died, so I guess they aren't
I
married.
it's weird.
Yeah,
I
his ex-wife.
yeah,
Um, he's like stalking her and kind of like confronting his humanity, and like I thought that was a really interesting theme that they were going to approach in the movie. But then there's that scene where he talks to his ex-wife and he like tells her like her husband is dead, I'm not him anymore, and he decides that he's like going to shut off his humanity. And then I thought that would be like a cool theme for the movie to explore, like can he really do that, since we saw at the end of the first movie that he really is, he has retained a lot of that humanity, but then the movie just kind of takes that at face value and never revisits that decision.
yeah, yeah. That plot point was, I think, the most disappointing. Like for me, like it's such an interesting plot point and such a good social like sci-fi idea. Like, oh, sorry, you gonna say something, Will?
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Okay. Like, yeah. It's such a good sci-fi idea about like, is Alex, Alex Murphy, RoboCop, is he still a man, or is he a machine, or he's more machine? Like, it could that's such a good direction they can go for the sequel. Last, because the first film is him rediscovering who he was before the RoboCop program. And the sequel, you want to explore more about, is he a man or is he part machine? Or, like, and I agree with you. They didn't took it anywhere. And I guess this would be a good transition to the worst aspects of the film. And I want to go first because I want to say out loud that this film is a good example of just not taking ideas to its full extent. And as you mentioned, for the plot line about the wife, I think was the most disappointing. They just didn't took it where it was just a way to like kind of cut loose ends for the first film, which is weird. Like,
Right.
if you're not gonna do it, then don't bring it at all in the sequel. And then and my worst aspect of this film is just there's too many plot lines and just storylines to jam packed in this film. And it's just they don't get served. You got this first like the first plot that is interesting and it's kind of like relatable and has happened before is like OCP trying to take under the city. That's happened with Detroit recently, 2013, with the bankruptcy they had.
Right, yeah,
Like, and then you have this other plot about the drug stuff, Nuke, which is interesting. I mean, but like, it's like, why we need that? And then it doesn't go together with the film. They just, I feel like the producers needed to just pick one plot line to go with and just make that as the through line throughout the film, not jam these two like big ideas to go with. And I like your, of course, it's good, Will, you mentioned about like the idea of RoboCop 2, getting another RoboCop, someone that didn't, they were trying to find another Alex Murphy, but then they went with a radical decision of getting a criminal is an interesting idea, but it's like, it's introduced halfway in the film and too late in the film because there's interesting ideas of what OCP are doing, and I just feel like it's
Also, it's played straight. Like I feel like the idea of like we're gonna create a cop, but we're gonna use the mind of a serial killer, like the like
Yeah,
high-end criminal, is so bizarre. But the
yeah,
the way that they present it, it's just this like very intelligent woman is like, what if we put a criminal's brain in there? And then um, the head of OCP is just like, she's a beautiful woman. I'll do whatever she says, and that's it. That's the reason. Um,
yeah,
it's weird.
yeah. It's just characters making stupid decisions, especially the old man. Like I feel like he's such a different character from the last film. It, like he,
Yeah,
you know,
because at the end of the movie, he was like kind of a good guy, right? And he fired
he fired Dick.
right, um, and allowed RoboCop to take him out.
Yeah,
But I feel like they could have made him the villain in RoboCop 2 and had it be consistent because
Hmm.
like a large themes like the evils of capitalism and like corporate greed. So I could see the head of the um, evil mega corporation being evil, even if in the first one the bad guy was the second in command.
yeah,
But watching um, the first movie and then kind of very soon after going into the second one, it was a little jarring because he's seen as like a more positive figure in the first movie, and then immediately he's the bad guy.
yeah. And yeah, I agree because if you made the old man bad guy in the next film, it makes sense logically to the film sequel. Because last film, yeah, you have Boris Bodiker, the main villain, but he's like the second antagonist, where the main bad guy was Dick Jones and played by Ronnie Cox, of course. And like he was in OCP, he had motive, and I think like it just shows how they weren't thinking about the universe they set up for RoboCop, and like they I don't know, like were they afraid of trying to not to repeat too much of the first film? I mean, that's the thing. You don't want to repeat too much of the same ideas from the first film. So, but then it just like because like the villain we got like Kane, the drug lord of Nuke, he's okay. It's like there's some interesting ideas I like. I like how the drug called Nuke can like give the people like what is it, like the sense of you're in like a island, or like you're like you're giving this like where like paradise you're feeling in your brain, or something like that. That's an interesting idea, but like it just feels off. I mean, doing drugs in a RoboCop it makes sense. He's a RoboCop. He's a cop.
Mhm.
I'm fine with that. It was just for me. It just shows the lack of commitment of a storyline. Their storyline they want to do, and but like when you watch this film, it's like literally the nuke thing is the most like thing they develop. And it's interesting. Like I think you can just Dr. Fax, that's the female character that gets
Mhm.
up with old man. I can understand what she's trying to do. Like if we get a like a criminal in a brain for Robocop, but like you can probably control it by any like a necessity they have like before, where Kane was addicted to Nuke, and
Right.
you saw when he was already in the Robocop 2 armor,
Mhm.
and like we saw how she was having the nuke, the full bottle red nuke, and like he was like having, his chest was popping that thing like gimme, and she was like, wait, here, I'll make you a deal and you get this, and he stopped. And listen, that's an interesting sci-fi thing. That's actually interesting, but they didn't do anything with it.
Right. Yeah. Like kind of manipulating him through his chemical dependency to like
Yes.
follow her orders is a very interesting idea. And then yeah, like after that scene, it's never mentioned.
Yeah.
Like we see his chemical dependency come up, but not it's not like her manipulating him through it ever again.
No. I mean, especially towards the end, where the old man's like, he just waves it to like, here's the bottle of milk, and he looks at it, it's like, oh, and it's like, and that's the thing. These characters make stupid decisions. Like, why she, like, did she know that old man was carrying a nuke, and she didn't know that he was gonna react to it? Like, it's just like, it's just a sample of characters not thinking at all. I want to bring up one thing. I think another disappointing thing about RoboCop 2 is the Alex and what is it? What's his female character's name? Lewis. Lewis.
Yeah, Lewis.
I was so disappointed they didn't like explore their friendship or anything. It was just like she was kind of there.
She was barely in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of the aspects that was so great about the first film. She had like an arc in the first film. She's trying to redeem herself of what she has done to Alex. You know, she let Alex go into to a crime that, you know, it's just it's crazy. And yeah, and I mean the actress Nancy Allen, you know, comment for she did not enjoy the shooting. Apparently she you know, Irvin Kershner didn't like her, and so, and the script had like multiple changes. You know, like famously, Frank Miller was first approached here to write the new script for RoboCop 2, and then they liked some of the ideas, but then they brought another one to kind of repurpose his script, and I just feel like they didn't went the Alex and Lewis relationship, and it's like it's just so disappointing because that was the crush of the first film, you know.
Right. Yeah. Like again, it was another humanizing aspect of the RoboCop character that they felt the need to do away with in the sequel.
Yeah, which is weird.
Like to the film's detriment.
Yeah. Okay. What else? Oh, let me ask you something. Do you think this movie is very mean spirited? Because I feel like the violence, because the first film is violent, but like it has a charm with the violence that can be acceptable. This movie just is so violent and so mean spirited for no reason, and it's like,
yeah, the first movie, like all of the violence was like clearly criminal. Like
yeah,
like it was always either criminals shooting innocent people or cops shooting criminals. Whereas in this one, they made it seem like violence was an everyday thing.
yeah,
Like especially with the children that they had in this movie.
yeah. Right.
So there's like that one like 12-year-old kid that's a drug kingpin somehow. But there's also the minor league or the like little league baseball team that just beats up a shop owner.
I know.
For no reason.
Well, Will, I want to explain that.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I mentioned before. Not, and there's a problem where the movie's not communicating the ideas they're presenting for the audience.
Right.
So, here's the thing: the beginning of the film, and the reason I'm saying that the nuke plot is like the majority of the film, not the OCP plot line, is that in the film is implying that Kane's nuke is giving Detroit this addiction and is making the city fall apart.
Right.
So OCP sees this opportunity to take over Detroit because of what nuke is doing.
Yeah, and they push the cops to go on strike to make sure crime is even worse. So Detroit's in a worse place, so they can eventually buy it out after it goes bankrupt.
Exactly. And speaking of the opening scene, to go back to that, there's a scene when you see when RoboCop, ready to take down the bad guys in the Arbor store. He keeps one bad guy alive to interrogate.
Mm-hmm.
He goes and look at the robber's car, and he sees nuke, and it indicates that okay, they're there to not only to steal but like probably get some cash to get more nuke. It's showing how the nuke is literally addicting everyone with this drug, and they're going to do extreme measures to get that drug again.
Yeah.
And it's the most interesting idea, but they don't talk about it enough. And I mean, they do, but then it gets lost towards like the third act, where we're just like going into the OCP plot line and then et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
And that's where this is where the violence, like this is where like the mean-spirited violence, you're thinking to yourself, okay, it's just why you're doing this, and then it's like, oh, they're like I'm explaining what it's applying, but then it gets kind of lost with the violence, and just it's just like it's like too much, really.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So, what else? That was, what do you think about the villains? Nuke, Kane, and his gang. Like, what do you think about them as villains of this film?
I thought they weren't as interesting as the villains of the first movie.
Yeah, yeah.
That
It's
their like motives weren't as clear.
no, yeah, I yeah. It's very cliche. Like he's like a cult leader, and like like he's trying to rebuild the society from with this drug he created, and it's all interesting, but it doesn't get enough to talk about in the film, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah, and then I mean, I mean Kane, I mean, yeah, they're no like Dick Jones or Ballas Boddicker gang. It's just like they're just there. Um, okay. I think. Speaking of worst aspect, what do you think about the new score for this film? They didn't return the classic RoboCop theme. What do you think about this new theme they created in this film?
Um, I thought it was okay, but I missed the iconic one from the original.
Yeah, yeah, that's another like sign of just not being consistent with your film.
Right.
It's kind of like Star Trek, like the original. Like you got the Jerry Goldsmith from the motion picture, and then you got when you get into Star Trek 2, it's like a different score, and then and then by like what third by the because the third one is with the same composer, so you got the same music from Star Trek 2, but then when you get to 4, it's different, and then 5 is again Jerry Goldsmith, and then 6 is a entirely different score. It's like here it's like they changed the score for no reason. And then the third one, which I don't want to talk too much, but like it brings back the classic thing, I would say. And I mean, it's only the best thing about World Cup 3. So,
So I shouldn't watch RoboCop 3 after this.
like, no. I mean, watch it for just curiosity. I mean, the film, just quick. I mean, like RoboCop 3 is bad for just like they tried to change some stuff. They tried to do insert ideas, but they don't fully execute right. Like, and also that film is PG-13, which kind of hurts it kind of hurts the franchise you've been following for the first 2 films.
Yeah, 'cause the ultra violence was kind of a staple of it. Like I know that the first movie was originally X-rated.
Yeah.
Because of the violence, and then they had to edit it down so they could get an R rating, and it took a while. I think I saw there were like 11 different X-rated cuts before they finally got one that appealed to the censors.
Yes, I know. Like, did you seen the boardroom for the first film? Like, that was much more gorier than you saw.
And even in the cut that I watched the R-rated version, but even in that cut. It's pretty gross. It's
Yeah.
pretty gruesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's still shocking. I think the first film does a really good job of like shock you, but in the right way. And I don't think RoboCop 2 really does that well.
Right. It's
So
it's ultra violent, but not in a way that makes you like horrified by the violence.
yeah, or
Which I think is I think the purpose of the violence in the first movie was to make you feel the intensity of it, to make you like fearful of it. Whereas in the second one, it was more like, oh, cool action scene, you know, a little glorifying.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. So let's get into like, I mean, you got into watching these first two films. Well, and let me ask you something. What do you think about the legacy of the film? Like, what you heard about the legacy of this film, RoboCop 2, in your mind? You know, and internet and everyone.
Well, before watching these movies, my impression of the RoboCop movies was that like, have you seen the show Community?
Not really. I just heard of it. So
Yeah. Like in the show, a few of the characters are fans of this film series called Kick Puncher, and it's like a RoboCop parody about a cyborg cop whose punches have the power of kicks, and it's just like very like cheesy and poorly made. And I just, whenever I thought of RoboCop, I just remembered Abed from Community saying like, "I am Kick Puncher," and like being dressed up in a bunch of cardboard boxes. So that was like my impression of the franchise, was like, yeah, it's basically just that. So I was pleasantly surprised when it was, you know,
oh my god.
better than that. I don't know why I thought it would actually be the same as a parody of it, but
No.
and it's interesting to see how the like the franchise has impacted pop culture.
Right.
Just like they're like different shots and things from the movies that I recognized in a lot of like other films that I've seen. And then I was very surprised that RoboCop 2 was very, very similar to Iron Man 2 in terms of plot.
Oh my
like
god.
basically identical.
I mean, I will say I'll watch this movie over. I'll watch RoboCop 2 over Iron Man 2. Just
Okay, I think I would rather watch Iron Man 2.
whoa, that's okay. I mean, as an Iron Man fan, I like watching Iron Man 2 in theaters. I was so disappointed, and I mean,
Yeah.
it gets better, especially when you like get into the other movies. You know, like Winter Soldier makes Iron Man 2 better, and I can see.
Right. Yeah, because like retroactively, you're like, oh, that guy was Hydra. That makes him wanting an Iron Man suit way more dangerous. I like Iron Man 2 has Justin Hammer, which is just a great character, and it's got a lot of like it's definitely one of the worst Marvel movies, but it's still like a fun action flick.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you're right. Like, it is similar to Iron Man 2. Yeah, it has like they both have a couple of great ideas and plot points they can go with, and then it doesn't get really wrapped up or like not executed towards the third act. Like they go to a different, like it goes to a 180 degree in the third act.
Yeah. But even like specific parts of the plot, like there's two main villains. There's like a corporate leader and a criminal, and then eventually they team up, and the criminal gets a super suit and fights the hero. There's that montage in both movies of the corporation trying to recreate the hero.
Oh, yes! Oh my god! Oh my god!
which is my favorite part of both movies, is
Yes, agreed.
the part where OCP is trying to like show off RoboCop 2, and the first one like comes out and then shoots the scientists that are like
There, like
demonstrating it, and then it shoots itself in the head. And there's that one really cool scene where like the second version of RoboCop 2 steps out
yeah,
and just screams, takes its helmet off, and it's this like melting skull, and then it falls over.
I know. That was
Like,
that's my favorite part.
yeah. But then in Iron Man 2, there's when Tony Stark is in that Senate hearing, and they're showing like the Hammer Tech version, and the armor like twists around and snaps the pilot's spine.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh
it's,
God. I can't believe it. Yeah, you're totally right. It's so similar to Iron Man 2. Yeah, and I will say, I mean, just like Iron Man 2, the humor is like hit and miss.
mhm.
Um, I mean, I think RoboCop 2 is funnier over Iron Man 2 because there's some jokes in Iron Man 2 I don't like really care for, or I don't like it. So
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah. What else? Yeah. I mean, like it also has like, the first Iron Man movie has a different score, just like RoboCop 2 has one as well, like a different score. And then what else? Like I mean, and you're right. Like in Iron Man 2, it's definitely Iron Man 2 is better than RoboCop 2 because like they explore more about Stark's father, and then obviously it gets more expanded upon in the Marvel Cinematic Universe later on. So yeah, so that's very true. Yeah, wow. Yeah, and also just a big shout out to Iron Man 2. It's this 10th anniversary this year.
Oh yeah, they came out in 2010.
Yep. So it's crazy.
I feel
man.
old. Yeah.
I mean, crazy. In June, like Toy Story 3 came out that year, and then Inception. It's like, oh, big year. So yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see what to do. I guess the big question is this a good follow up to the first RoboCop? Will you think it's a good follow up to RoboCop, or is it a just not a good follow up at all?
I wouldn't say it's not a good follow-up at all, because I think it was like a fun movie to watch. But I think it like teased at expanding the story and themes of the first movie, and then ultimately didn't really do anything new or interesting with them. So I would say it's disappointing in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's not a good follow up in terms of it, like it contradicts and not following up the ideas or like the potential ideas that the ending of the first film applied for the main character. Like because like towards the end of the film, like RoboCop, like Alex's voice starts to become more human.
Right.
Like towards the end, he just say Murphy, and it's not like a robotic sound. It sounds more like human, and like that's such a powerful image. And like in the sequel, he has this robotic voice. I mean, it still sounds like Pierre Weller's voice, but it totally destroys the first film's ending, and it just lacks the kind of like it lacks the satire or like the strong like heavy violence humor that the first one contained.
Yeah, I think they kind of stripped the franchise of its humanity.
Yes.
And yeah, it's very similar to the character himself. And then like the second one, rather than being like a very clever science fiction story, feels more like a comic book movie, or like just a like popcorn action flick, which is disappointing because the first movie was just such like an interesting.
It was, and it was so much more. That's the thing.
Yeah, like the first movie, there was like an intelligence behind it, and it wasn't just like action scene after action scene.
Yep. I agree. I mean, so you have more time, like you have more time to talk a little bit. Will?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
Okay. So, we should not. I don't know. Like, I should rank the films. Like, you haven't seen the third film, which is, I mean, I don't know why I want to rank these films. I mean, especially like the remake. It's another problem.
Is it not good either?
No, it's one of those remakes that's like destroys what makes RoboCop RoboCop, and it's
Yeah,
PG-13.
I could see it just being another action movie instead of like a smart social commentary.
Yeah, it has one of the most amazing casts, and they don't use them properly. Like Michael Keaton, Gary Oldman, and Samuel L. Jackson are in that film,
Wow,
and it's like,
that is a good cast.
yeah, and you know, I forgot what person that's like in the Seth Rogen crew. He's there. He voiced uh the guy, the main character for How to Train Your Dragon.
Jay Baruchel.
Yes, he's in that movie. Jackie Earl Haley is in that film, and the main RoboCop character actor is Joel Kinnaman. He plays Alex Murphy in that film.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, and the film is PG-13, which that's not like, and I guess another like interesting trivia fact, there is another development of a RoboCop film. It's still titled RoboCop Returns. They're
Mhm.
trying to do like the recent Halloween, like Star Wars Force Awakens, of being like a true sequel to the first film.
Right.
And
So that they just ignore all of the other films that have been made and just
exactly.
a sequel to the original.
Yeah.
I could be interested in that. The 33-year time difference would be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would handle that. Does
I
RoboCop age?
I mean, like, well, like, okay, like, this is the word. Theoretically, no. Like, the face should not be changing. Like, it's a
Like-
robot. It can.
But the face isn't a robot though.
Well, yeah. It's how you call it. It's like a aesthetic skin. You know, it's not like flesh, but it's like,
I thought it was like his actual skin.
yeah. I don't know about that. Well, they don't really address that in the first two films. Like, you just had to imagine that they just made like what's the word, I just say it, aesthetic skin for it to not look threatening enough for the public, just look more friendly, and
Mhm.
that's the one aspect that's kind of weird. Like, they kept his face, and it's like, why you didn't like cover up entirely. I don't know, it's just weird. Yeah, and this like this so many development of RoboCop Returns that the original writers from the first one are doing it. Before a director was on it, and it was like Neil Blomkamp, the director of
Mhm.
District 9 and Elysium, was
Okay.
supposed to do it, but then he left. So we have a new director. I don't have the name right now, the new director. So I don't know. I'm a little concerned about it a little bit. For me, these, like, it could go in a good way, like Halloween for me, or it could have gone really bad, like Force Awakens, and just in terms of like you're just rehashing things,
Mhm.
which I don't like, especially in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
I think the only way you can make the film be interesting and like you make people more to go out to see this film is rated R. This, like,
Yeah. I'm sure it will be.
Yeah,
especially if the original writer is returning.
Mm.
I'm a little more hopeful for it.
True. Yeah, and and lately the radar system has been more popular now, thanks to Deadpool and Logan, now Joker.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's not going to be no question. Like, we need to get this back to radar, because I will say this legacy of the film is the last, like, for me in my review. I want to go back to the question of the legacy of this film.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only a disappointment follow up to the original film, but it's also the last time you will really see a true RoboCop film, because after this we're just going to make RoboCop a kid-friendly product, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not the nature of the character or the film franchise as a whole. And they just miss the mark sometimes. It's like yes, kids like these characters, but not because like they like it because it's hard, or like it has meat to it, and it's a and you take away the thing it's most suitable for, you're just alienating people.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the later sequels or remakes becoming PG-13 and try to be like friendly audience, just not what the franchise is known for, And so
Yeah.
hopefully it gets back to the root of it, and stuff like that. Yeah. I should say, well, we're doing good in time. Let's kind of discuss conclusion. Overall, what do you think about this film, Will, in terms of conclusion? And will you ever go back to seeing this film, Will?
I can't really say that I find myself wanting to go back to it. I think it was there wasn't enough there for me to want to revisit it, but I definitely think I would rewatch the first film. I really enjoyed that. I really liked the social commentary on like policing and the militarization of the police.
Yeah.
I thought it was there were a lot of really cool like sci-fi elements, where like the weird science fiction construct of like a cyborg were explored really well and kind of elevated the plot and themes of the film. But the sequel, like again, like it had those elements, but it didn't really do enough to grab me, and it didn't explore them as thoroughly. So I don't know if I feel like I need to revisit this one.
No, I agree with you. And it's a shame, because I think RoboCop 2 can be, a great sequel, but unfortunately, it just didn't meet its expectations right, and it's going to be the last film for like RoboCop fans to just enjoy the radar system of RoboCop, and 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 this is like the last film you see like the old man. He doesn't come back, unfortunately, in the third film, because the actor passed away, unfortunately, around that time after
That's too bad.
Yeah, which is sad, because I like that old man actor, and he's really great in these first two films. And I guess I want to talk, like, do you remember a memorable line in RoboCop 2?
Trying to think.
Sure.
I really can't think of any.
Oh, okay. I want to mention one. There's one towards the, like in the boardroom at top of the building of OCP, when Robo Kane starts to attack people. The
Mhm.
old man, there's this like a quick shot of the old man saying this hilarious line that just comes out of nowhere. He say, "Behave yourself," and then we just got back of RoboCop shooting, and then he like get a close up of his eyes and like, oh, like he's like a really old grumpy man. It's like these kids are making a mess out of it. Oh, it's such a meme from RoboCop 2. Like if you check like Tumblr or like anyone, that is the line people remember. It's the last line that you hear for the film trailer. They put that towards the end of the film trailer, and it's so funny. It's like, behave yourself. It's just, it's so like, what? Like, another one was the character Miss Fax. She says something when she was trying to reprogram, Robo Kane, and then RoboCop say, "Kane, let's step outside," and that's another member line as well. And she say, "You get out of here. You're obsolete." That's another like line that I kind of chuckle. It's I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. There's no memorable lines at all in this film, but there's a couple like as far in between. So yeah, so those are the ones I remember clearly. What else? Yeah, and then yeah. So yeah, folks, that's RoboCop 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode 2 of Andreas Pop Culture Talk. Thank you, Will, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And Will, are you interested in doing another podcast by any chance?
Yeah, it'd be fun.
You want to do Iron Man 2? Because it was kind of interesting you brought that up.
Yeah, we can do Iron Man 2.
Yeah, if you're fine with that.
Yeah, no, I love the Iron Man movies.
Oh, oh my God. I'm a big Iron Man fan. So that's cool.
Well,
All right.
I just like any Marvel movie is
that's
definitely
true.
my thing. Yeah.
I mean, hey. Yeah. Yeah, I think we should do like a podcast of the MCU before Black Widow comes out. We should do that. Just,
Okay, yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to do like the MCU order, honestly, because there's some films they just don't address. Incredible Hulk. Anyway,
General Ross has come back a few times now.
Yeah.
He's gonna be in Black Widow.
Yeah, that's true. That's weird. Okay.
I'm okay with skipping Incredible Hulk though.
Yeah. I like the Incredible Hulk.
It's okay.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's my second Hulk movie I saw in theaters, and like, I just love it as like a superhero film. Like, it does some stuff right. Like, I like it gets over the origin story, and then it has a good fast pace. The villains survive, compared to the other MCU films, and then I just been disappointed that how the MCU just doesn't talk about it. I don't like how Age of Ultron they force like Bruce and Natasha in a relationship, which for me as a Hulk fan, that just means you're just not mentioning Betty Ross as a character, and she's not really in this universe. Maybe I don't like that, and
yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to see William Hart back, but like, it's like, why we need him? It's like we could bring other government officials from the comics.
Yeah, they could have been any general.
Yeah, I mean, he's a secretary. He's like what?
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I'm just saying, it's weird. Yeah. Okay, Will, I'm very excited to talk about Iron Man 2. I see it recently, and I did like another. I did a tribute on Iron Man 2, folks. I did Iron Man 2 10th anniversary tribute, and you can check it out in my channel. I also did a RoboCop 2 30th anniversary tribute as well from last week, and you can check it out on my channel. And yeah, this will be so pretty much you can have a finally confirmed another podcast that me and Will are going to do Iron Man 2, which is great, and we can maybe slowly start the MCU. I'm not guaranteeing that. Will is sometimes busy, so I cannot guarantee that stuff. So I'm excited to talk about Iron Man 2. I don't think it's the worst film of the MCU.
No.
It's just like I like some parts of it and I don't like some parts of it. It's not Thor: The Dark World, honestly.
Yeah, that's definitely the worst one.
Yeah. Like honestly, Thor Dark was worse. And also, no worry, folks. There's gonna be another podcast on Sunday. Of course, Will knows her. Is Becca? Me and Becca are doing a OA podcast on season 1. And check that out for Sunday. So everyone, have a nice day and goodbye.